people, welcome back. Today we're doing these lush vintage floral themed cake geo hearts. I've done these as my Mother's Day range, but obviously these would work for any time of the year. They'd be lush as gifts, Valentine's, Mother's Day, any kind of little gift. I think these are a lush pattern and we're going to show you how to do it. So first of all, I've got melted a tiny amount of candy melts and I've put them in my little palette that I use for painting. There is literally the tiniest amount here. And then I've also melted down some cocoa butter. Okay, you can see this is 1/4 teaspoon measure that I'm putting into each cavity. And then you will, sorry, there's a little bit of fluff there. I had a fluffy jumper on. I wasn't doing these for clients, so these were just purely for this video. So I popped 1/4 teaspoon of cocoa butter into each one. So we're thinning it down with the cocoa butter. And then we're using a toothpick just to really amalgamate those together. And then we're going to use our Colour Mill colours. If you watch my other videos, you'll know I love these colours. They're brilliant for this kind of work. They emulsify into chocolate really, really well. So this one is a blush, and this is the palest. And then this one is a baby pink, and this is the darker colour. Now we're going to start backwards when we do this. So you'll see in a minute how we go about that. But we're just mixing all these colours together. And then the third colour, I was going to do 4, but I actually found I didn't need 4. So you will only actually need 3. And the third one will be a green. So we're going to take our mould and we're going to start painting onto these. We're going to use a fairly thin brush, but not the thinnest one you've ever seen. This one was a 0. So you can see all the marks all over my hands where I burn myself on the oven all the time. So what we're doing is we're starting, like I say, backwards. So we're making the roses, but we're starting with the darkest colour. We're just doing the 2 sort of little semicircles, and each section of where the 2 semicircles are will be 1 rose. Okay, so we're using those thinned down candy melts to paint onto this. It works really, really well. It transfers onto the end result really, really well. So we're going to do those 2 dark lines in the little semicircle. They don't need to be perfect, and don't worry, this, I promise, this will all come together. As you've seen in the picture at the beginning there, they will all come together at the end and it will look right, but we've got to start backwards because the face that you're looking at now, that will be the outer face when they're done, when they're turned out. So we'll do it backwards. So you've got to kind of, if you're using this technique for different patterns, you've got to really think about what the end result is that you want to see on your chocolate when it's turned out. So like I say, we've got to work backwards for this technique. You could use this for all sorts of things. I'm definitely going to try this with a Dalmatian print. I can't wait to try that. I'd really like to try it with a leopard print as well. So that's definitely on my list of things I'm going to do. So as and when I do those, I will definitely upload those for you guys to see as well. I'm just doing 2 more, so I will just super speed that up for you so you don't have to sit through all of that because it can be a bit repetitive. And then we're going to go in with our second colour. Now this is the really pale pink. This is the blush in the Colour Mill. As always, guys, if you watch a lot of my videos, you know I'll put all the links for everything I've used down below for you. They're all Amazon affiliate links. I do get a slight payment from Amazon for that, and it just helps me provide more content for you guys. It's a really, really small payment, so if you do use those links, it does help a small little channel like myself. Okay, so we're using the pale and we are doing a circle, but not, you don't want it to be completely perfect. You can see here I'm not being slapdash, but not doing it a perfect circle. You don't want a perfect circle. Roses aren't perfect, not perfectly round. You don't want it to look perfect. You know, the beauty is in the non-symmetrical look of it, you know, and you'll see at the end that that really does come through. So what I did is I did a little bit and then I did go back over it again as well because I didn't want any holes. You can see I'm just speeding that second pair up for you there because you don't need to see all 3. There is another design on this one as well that I did do that I will show you in a moment, that went with the set. So these are for my Mother's Day examples. And my sets have got 1 floral and 2 of the other ones because if you are doing this for a business, the floral ones are quite time consuming, so you need to try and pair it with something that's a little less time consuming, so they get the striking look of the floral one along with two other fairly more straightforward ones that obviously will make the most of your time. If it's your business, you can't be spending hours and hours, because though you're not spending money on materials when you're using the hours, you aren't paying yourself for that time if you're not charging enough to cover the amount of time that it takes to make these floral ones. And you've really got to think about that when it's your business and it's your livelihood, like it is for me. So off on a tangent there, do apologise about that, but hey, a little business lesson for you. So these are the leaves that are going on now. Like I say, I was going to do these in two tones, but I didn't feel like it really needed it. You could do it two-toned if you wanted to. You could use a thinner brush, a really, really thin brush, and do a paler green and then go over the top with the darker green if you wanted to. That would look lovely, but I didn't feel it necessary. Again, remember that we're working backwards, so this will all come together when we turn our geo hearts back out again. So sorry for all the moving about and stuff. I really had to move it to make sure I got every which one of them. So there we go, sped up, and there are all our leaves. And now we are going in with our chocolate. This is Candy Melts. If you watch my videos, you'll know I mostly use Candy Melts for this kind of product because they're just easier to work with. You don't have to worry about tempering and things like that. If you are using plain white chocolate, you will need to temper. So I used a white Candy Melt and then I coloured it with a taupe by Colour Mill again. I liked the vintagey feel of the taupe. It does kind of look a little bit like white chocolate, but it's not, because it's not got, I don't know how it's coming across on your screen, everybody's screen's different, but it's not got the yellow tones that the white chocolate has. I'm not a fan of the way white chocolate looks personally, because it's not white. So we did go for the taupe on this one, so it's like I'd call it a beige. It's a nice beige. And we're going in, it's not too hot. If it's too hot, it will melt that painting that you've done in there. I'd say it's probably around 30 degrees centigrade. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. For those of you overseas, I know quite a few of my followers are American. Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Leave me a comment below. So yeah, we're using our acrylic stick as always. I assume a lot of you probably do watch my other videos, so I kind of talk in a way that I assume you've already seen these tools and things like that before, but if you haven't, I do apologise. But over here on my channel, we use our ball tools for smoothing our chocolate around our moulds, because that is the best way to do it. So we are smoothing it round. You can't get this specific acrylic one anymore. I get asked about it all the time. Sorry about my red jumper showing in the bottom there. But you can't unfortunately get it anymore. So we're using blush for this second one again. And we're doing two of these. This is as I was saying to you, the simpler version. They still look really, really pretty, and they all go together really, really nicely. So for my Mother's Day, I'm doing a trio of these, and they'll have two pink ones and one floral. Again, because the floral is more time consuming. And then we're just wiping over the top with our angled spatula. And now we're going to prepare our cake. So this is a vanilla cake that I had already baked. You can use any kind of cake you want, or you can use a brownie or a truffle filling. Experiment with different fillings. Let me know what you do experiment with and how it goes. Sometimes I put a centre of salted caramel or a jam or jelly or a conserve in the middle. But these ones were just cake. So we're whizzing it up in the food processor until it resembles really fine breadcrumbs. Okay, you can do this by hand, it takes much longer, or you can do it in a freestanding mixer. And then I am mixing in some vanilla buttercream. I do wear gloves for this bit. I tend not to wear gloves for all of my cakey things and such too much, because you can't feel what you're doing. I feel it's much more hygienic to wash your hands more often. I have a 1.5 sink in my kitchen and an extra sink in my utility as well. So I don't wear gloves too much. It is much more hygienic to wash your hands more. I know it sounds backwards, but it is far more hygienic, and you do tend to wash your hands more if you're not wearing gloves. So now we're pressing the cake into these moulds. You don't have to be quite as careful with these moulds as you do with the cake school moulds. If you've seen my other videos, you've got to be really careful of those sticks. So we're pushing it into the mould. Sometimes I use the heel of my hand just to smooth it off. We need to leave around 1 to 2 millimeters away from the top of the mould so that we can get a really nice seal on the back of the Geo cake heart when we come to seal the backs in. And that means that the casing that we've already made, that we put in the fridge earlier before we whizzed our cake, that seals onto the back of the melted chocolate that we're going to put in a moment. Okay, like I say, experiment with different fillings. This one was just a vanilla filling. This is my most popular, along with a chocolate cake filling. I've put Lotus Biscoff in there, if you have that where you are. Salted caramel, like I say, jellies, jams and conserves you can put in there. You've just got to make sure whatever you put in, you've got to make sure that you are leaving enough room to get a really good seal so that it doesn't leak out and things like that. So once we've done this, we're going to use our chocolate to put along the back with our angled spatula. I was running out of this taupe colour by this point, so I think I did a couple in pink as well, but do you know what, you couldn't tell once you turn them over anyway. I do melt my chocolate on a double boiler. If you don't know what a double boiler is, that is where you have a saucepan with a small amount of water, 1 inch to 1.5 inches of water in the bottom, and then you put a metal or a glass bowl on top of the pan, but not touching the water. The bowl should not touch the water. Bring the water to a boil before you put your chocolate in. Place your chocolate in the bowl and turn it down to a really, really low speed. I mean, I've got an induction hob and I turn mine down to 2 or 3, and it's just a little tiny simmer. Just keeps the water warm. And then you melt it slowly. I find that's better than using a microwave. If you use the microwave, or a microwave if you're Nigella Lawson, if you use that, I do find that you have to keep popping it in and out constantly, and it's a pain, whereas the warm bowl keeps it melted for longer. So once we've sealed these backs in, we're going to pop these back in the fridge for 5 minutes. You don't need very long, especially if you're using candy melts. It will take a little bit longer if you're using real chocolate. Okay, so now we're going to take them out of the mould once we pop them in the fridge. And these ones are actually really easy to demould versus the cake schools, if you've seen those videos that I do. Just loosen them ever so slightly from the sides, as you can see here, and then pop them out from below, and they do come away really, really easily. I break very few of these doing them, if any at all, now these days. Now I'm used to them. But there you go, that is the floral one, and look how pretty that is. It's so pretty, and those roses really pop and really do look pretty and lovely, and look at that lovely shine as well. So yeah, you really can't beat this method. It really is lovely. Stay tuned in a sec, because I am going to show you how I decorated those pink ones as well. I left the floral ones completely plain. I just left them with the floral touch to them. Refocus the camera for you here and it might actually be able to see it. There you go. But yeah, I decorated the pink ones in a really nice pretty technique, so we'll show you that in a second. So what I went for was quite a heavy splatter. I'm mixing a dust here, a luster dust, a silver luster dust. Again, I'll link this down below for you. And I'm using a 0 brush and I'm splatting it on there. And like I said, I wanted quite a heavy splatter because the decor that we're going to do after this is quite heavy as well, so we need it to really show through. So I did do quite a lot of splatter. Sometimes I do quite a delicate splatter, but today we went for a fairly heavy one. And then we're going to use a couple of other products as well, and don't forget our piping bag for our drizzle as well when we get to that. We're always using a piping bag because it's much, much neater. But like I say, I really did go to town on this drizzle, on this splatter. And just doing the second one for you here as well. And I'll speed that up so you don't have to listen to me gab on. And you'll notice I did film this bit where I went around the sides as well. So we got all of the sides on this one. And now we're using some melted white candy melts to drizzle. Like I say, piping bag, always a piping bag for this kind of work. It's much, much, much neater. And then I am using some edible glitter squares. I'm not sure if you can get these on Amazon, but I will link them down below. And if you can't get them on there, I will link where I get mine from for you as well. drizzle, drizzle, drizzle. Look how pretty that is. So pretty. I love it. But you can see how I was saying that you needed the heavier splatter on there because the drizzle is quite heavy. So if we'd have done a really light splatter, you wouldn't have seen it come through at all. So there you go, that is the finished product. And how pretty are these going to look against those floral ones for Mother's Day. And other occasions, they look really pretty in spring treat boxes and such. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will put out some more of these painting ones because I know it's quite a popular technique. Thank you for watching, and please do subscribe. It does help my teeny tiny little channel to grow. Thank you very much. Bye.